You know how like a writing echo is super deliberate. Hey y'all, we're in the middle of a conversation. Greetings.
We just gonna keep talking
Greetings.
about it.
Absolutely. Um, so you know how in like a writing echo, it's when like a very particular phrase continues to repeat and then it like sort of
Mhm.
jars the reader and seems to create the air of redundancy.
Mhm.
That's what I feel about her style. Like
Gotcha.
it's so unique. I wish it had just been used in that one instance. So it could have been like, wow, y'all remember that thing she did
Got you.
and
Got you. Got you.
but now it's being used again. And I'm just like, well, now I don't understand exactly what I'm seeing or
Right.
why you have
Mhm.
an allegiance to this particular construction. So
Mhm.
that's why I need to finish reading. So I'm trying to see
Because it
something
could be
like
one of those things that plays itself out once you get to the end of it, but you don't necessarily know
so I'm trying to
until
see
you get
something.
that. Right.
So
Got you.
that's why I'm
Got
like,
you.
I'll put my emphasis on the audio. I'll move through the E as I have energy. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling so far. What book are we talking about? Y'all will have to come to the writerly conversation at the end of the month to find out.
Oh,
I
my
should tell
bad.
you what book we're talking about.
My bad. I'm sorry. I thought we were telling people so they could be
You did
read
not
too. My
understand the
bad. I'm
assignment.
sorry. I was like, I got it. I be advertising and stuff.
I
We
see it.
want black women to get their books and stuff out there. So y'all
Period.
go buy them. Go buy them.
Well, it's a little
But
dark, so maybe
honestly,
you
the
can
only
see.
reason I don't even have Family Lord, so I have it. It's been bought, and my best friend has gone and picked it up from the bookstore. Has he delivered it to me? No. So I don't got it yet. So has the
I don't have
audio
the Delicious
book
Monsters
been
physical
delivered to
book.
me yet? And it's like, oh, so you didn't get it?
No, I called him and was like, "Has this been? Hi, Felicia. Hope you're still here." That was like an hour ago. Hey, Vina. Hey, Pat.
Hey.
Hey, Adrian. Loving it. Um, yeah, no, and I'm fine, Pat. Thank you for asking. It was a lot of wind and rain, so it was just for safety. I was in the basement watching Naruto. Was the style of it. It was lovely. Um, but yeah, no, I called him and he was like, "No, if there had been some mail here for you, they would have like given it to me, but I haven't gotten anything for you." Which is what I knew when I was telling you the first time. I was like, I don't. They
But
would have given it
did
to
you go to
me
the
or given
post
it to
office?
him, huh?
Did you go to the post office?
Is that where you sent it?
No, no, no. But did you go to the post office to check though? Like just cause like so the reason being is like I know like and I can go through my receipts because like I keep all my receipts anyway, so I can go find it and find the number or whatever. But if it
Mhm.
was and I know that it had a confirmation number. I don't know if it was one of those that it had to be delivered to a person. I can't remember if
Oh,
it
oh, oh,
was. So
oh.
if it
I
didn't and it
see.
had to be doing, then they would have put something in a mail slot or on the door or whatever. And if he wasn't there,
Yeah.
he hasn't checked, he would have known. But they haven't returned it to me. So somebody has it. That's what I'm
Oh
saying.
no.
So like if it's not there, somebody has it. And I couldn't imagine why anybody would take a book.
I mean, maybe they looked the cover and was like, this looks dope."
Yeah, I mean, it's autographed to you. It's like she left a message to you in there, so it's
Oh
definitely a you book.
no.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I could have sworn, and the only reason I didn't say anything when I sent it was so it would be a surprise. So you just saw it, and I'm mad I just didn't send a text to say something when I sent it, so that you
Yeah,
knew.
because
But
I
I
could have
thought because I sent it so far before you were
months
supposed to
ago.
move, I just knew you was gonna get it. So
No. Well, we're on the case now. That's a good point. I'll call the post office, although I don't know because like when they give that slip, they tell you specifically where to pick it up, and sometimes it's post office and sometimes it's a designated drop off location. And it's been
yeah,
before that it was at like there's a CVS near my house. That's a designated drop off location. So it's really random is what I think. Like there I could call the post
got
office and they
you.
could be like, no, but it could be in some CVS somewhere for some reason, which is stupid to me. But
Right.
I don't have any idea. So if you could
It's
track it,
definitely supposed to be returned. If it's not, if somebody doesn't pick it up, that's usually what happens when things aren't delivered to the person they're supposed to be delivered to. It gets returned to the address, and
yeah,
my
I mean, it's been
address
a
is the
month.
return address.
It's been a
Right.
month. So hopefully, but I will be up that way on Wednesday. So I will go by and open the mailbox and see if I see a slip. But they're usually very good about putting boxes and paper at my door. So the fact that they did it for an entire month, it's either a rare slip or they don't have anything. So I'll tell you on Wednesday if I have it, and if I don't, then maybe you should track it and ask them to recall the
Yeah, no, I'm
package.
gonna go into this bag as soon as we go into the sprint to look and track it as soon as we get done.
Okay, cool, great.
Yeah.
All right, humans. Let's see. Oh, Shay, did you?
Yeah. I meant to comment. I watched it. I meant to comment. Yeah. Because I was watching her read the scene, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so dope. Also, I seen you with the blue hair girl.
Oh, we have blue hair now.
She playing with the color. She playing with the color.
Oh,
It's
okay.
got a little bluish
Are we
grayish
talking about
ponytail
cobalt
coming on.
blue, baby
It
blue,
is like
powder
a couple. It's
blue?
like a bluish gray ponytail.
I love that.
hmm
I'm not on
It's given. I
Instagram
whip
right
my
now,
hair back
so.
and forth. I whip my hair back and forth. That's what
Oh,
it made me think of when I seen it.
okay. Pat is reading What the Fireflies Knew by Kai Harris. What a name.
Man,
That Emma Ray
hey,
in the
making an
chat?
appearance.
Is that Emma Ray in the chitty
Mhm.
chat? Hey girl. And Alicia, good morning, good morning. And Nicole, wow, the old guard is showing up.
Everybody in here today. Woo woo woo.
So crazy. Oh my goodness. Amazing. Seeing Nicole reminded me that I need to write the acknowledgments for hashtag first romance. Shout out to everyone who did a beta/alpha read. And I say beta/alpha because it changed so dramatically even after the beta.
It's
People's
definitely
probably
two
like,
different
what do
books,
you
but
mean?
it's good and it's good.
Yeah, Shay read it. She can confirm.
Yeah.
Who can
But I can
tell?
also confirm that I have not read a book of yours that has not went through a draft that is not a completely different book after a draft, truthfully. So there's that.
I don't know what you want from me.
No, I just think it's a work of art that you have written like 20 books in the course of my friendship with you is the truth. I still have
Wow.
yet to finish one, but you've done 20. And so, it's inspiring, truthfully, for me. It is inspiring. Like it's like, girl, what have you done lately? Not nothing compared to my critique partner, truthfully. Okay.
Listen, when they
But
asked
she writes
Hamilton why
5
he was
books a
right, like he
year,
was
low
running out
key.
of time.
She writes 5 books a year, low key. Y'all just don't know
No one's ever seen them.
it.
No one.
But me, I seen them. I know they exist.
Listen, Shay and Shingai have seen, bar none, the most versions of hashtag first fantasy. Between them, I think, between Shay and Shingai, they have seen every version, which is a super feat. There are so many versions of hashtag first fantasy. I'm still finding them. Like I just run into a version and I'm like, what is
I think
this?
there's only one version I haven't seen, and we only realized I hadn't seen it. He started talking, and I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I've never read this. You
It's a
haven't? I've
completely different book.
never read this one. I
It,
don't no idea what's happening in this story. I have no idea.
it's a different book.
It's
There's
a different book.
because I was so lost that when we tell y'all, like I think we've said it before, maybe even like the last or the one before, like the Writerly conversation, or even like it's just general advice to try a scene multiple ways before you like commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want you to know that I really walk out that practice.
Yeah, no,
Like,
like if we give y'all advice, it's because we actually do it. Like it's
yeah,
not at all, because it's like we heard it from somebody and we just
yeah.
parroting it.
Or
Nah,
we'll
I
tell
say
you,
we
oh, I
all
heard
live
this from
by it.
somebody. I don't do it, but maybe it'll help you. Like,
Yeah.
otherwise,
Oh yeah, no, like we'll definitely give you that disclaimer. But for the most
yeah,
part, it's because we done lived and learned.
it's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard for you and your critique partners, as Shay can attest. Um, but I just want to know at the end of all things, hashtag Lord of the Rings, that I put out the very best version of this book that I could, and how can you know it's the best if you haven't tried anything else? Like the
And
construction of
I
hashtag.
am
Hmm?
such a vain critique partner that I don't want my critique partner to put out a book that have people looking like, oh, I'm critique partners. Let her put this out. So
Because
because
that's always my first question when I
that's
see a book that's been
always the
regarded.
first question. So because I'm vain and I don't want to look slow by proxy. We just all gonna look good together. Is the point.
Hello? We're all gonna read these 15 versions.
I ain't
Thanks
never
for
seen
your
it, but
sacrifice.
we're all in this together. I ain't never seen it, but we're all in this
Absolutely. Yeah.
together.
So I definitely, who can tell if I've been changed for the better? But because I wrote those 15 versions, I have been changed for good. So I don't know that I'll ever have to write hashtag wicked. I don't know if I'll ever need to rewrite a book to the level um that I did hashtag first fantasy, because I learned so many different things from those different versions. Yeah, that's to you, Shay. That I did it on hashtag first fantasy, but and each version taught me something different. Like a book really is completely different depending on who the main character is. And obviously the main character gets the most development. So as well it should, you're welcome. And now I have like developed all of the characters of hashtag first fantasy in large depth. And that was kind of hard to do because there's 6 of them. It's an ensemble cast, but because I have switched between who's the main character 3 times.
And not even that, just the relationship. The relationship changed. Like changing how they were related completely changed the story.
Yeah. They were all sisters. And then there was 2 sisters and a cousin.
Yeah, there were 2 sisters and a cousin, and then there were 2 sisters and a foster sister.
That's right.
And then there was a time where they were just all friends.
That's
And
right. That was the original one. Oh my
that was the
word.
original
You see
one.
me
They were
remembering all that I have written? I have forgotten more than I have written so much that I have forgotten much of what it ever was.
and that's
They
my
started
critique
off as friends.
superpower
They
is
sure
that I'm
did.
not gonna forget. That'll be my critique superpower. I'm not gonna forget.
Shay said, I will never forget. Gone but not forgotten.
I would
will
not. I
always
would
remember.
not. I will. It's like the way I was like, so like 2 versions ago, she did not do this, right? Like this was not her character. So we not go. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
No,
they've
I'm
gone
just trying to
through
make sure we keep it. Okay, all right, okay.
they've gone through
So did
so
we
many
change her age
changes.
too in this version? Because in the last version, they was like closer and they okay.
Yeah. There was a 13-year-old version,
Mm-hmm.
and then the time jump, and then there was a starting at 16 version, and no
Mm-hmm.
time jump, and then a small time jump. Then there was a 17 version, barely any time. Like yeah, it's been
Mm-hmm.
like a little Rubik's
Mm-hmm.
cube.
And then
Like let's try to
there
get.
was the version where they all had different parents. I was like, girl.
That was also the original version. They
Yeah,
were
that's what I'm
friends.
saying. That version where it was six
6
parents. We had the
families.
same or 6 families.
Yeah, it was 6 families. And that's what I say when people when in fantasy, dig my Inuyasha shirt, just gonna say that. But when I read fantasy where there are no parents and I say that's lazy writing, I know what I'm saying. Like I know
Yeah,
that
no,
having
because
a
it
parent
is
is labor
work.
intensive.
It is
I get
work.
that.
It is work.
I understand what I'm saying, but I'm saying though, like it's that doesn't change it. Like if you still need to have your kids have parents if you're writing youth, unless it is part of their backstory that they don't have parents. Like if you're writing about a kid who's a runaway, and even then they're running away from some adult, so like
Right.
unless it's part of
Why
their
are they
story that
running
there are
away?
no
Well,
parents,
right.
there need to be
Well,
parents. Like, and I
there's
get
a
that it's
guardian
hard.
somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm just like, yeah, I understand the difficulty. I did it. And
So
even, and I still
randomly,
ended up consolidating, but there were still parents and the parents are still present.
there are still parents, and they were very important, crucial
Yeah.
to the story, crucial. Like low key, the parents became way stronger characters when you nixed more parents than in
Yeah.
the beginning.
Well, because
Like,
I can consolidate my efforts.
yeah,
If I
no,
don't
but
have
they
to have
started to
6
have
backstories.
lines and full on scenes and
Yeah.
conversations, and I was like, oh,
Oh
we
my
get it.
goodness. You did see that one where there was a scene where it was like, it was one of the dad's POV. Did you see that version?
Yeah, well,
And he
right,
was on the
because
roof
like you
across the
go
street?
through what happened and what he did, and like all the that's what I'm saying. Like it went because that wasn't the story, that
Yo,
wasn't the
RIP
thing,
that
and you
scene though.
changed it. That
RIP
was
that scene. That was a
man, there
good
were some good
scene.
ones. There were some good, and then all the scene. Well, I can't go into it because then it would be like
Sure,
spoilers.
sure,
But
sure.
all the
Speaking
scenes and
code.
stuff, crazy. I was just thinking about like the dream sequence scenes, like all the changes in those with like
Mm,
going between the other worlds and stuff, like those that like stayed and didn't stay, those things.
yeah.
But randomly, because we were talking about like parents and stuff, right? So of the books that I have been reading this year, now we all know, I haven't been finishing as many. I'm trying, right?
Sure.
But of the ones that I've been reading, majority of them deal with a freaking mother being dead. And the way
Yeah.
that I've been working on a video about how I'm trying to work through grief, and all these writers and God have been like, you gonna deal with grief. You're gonna face your grief through these fictional books, because apparently everybody want to write about grief. Like everyone.
Are you finding that
I'm having
helpful?
I
Or are you feeling
I
more
am
like
in
Vina
a
felt?
way,
Because
like
that's a good
honestly,
point
like,
too.
well, one, because I would not read them. Let me start there. Like I
Mm,
would not choose to read a book that has to deal with someone coping with grief right now,
hmm.
personally. Like if I
Yeah.
knew that that was a main point for the book, I wouldn't have picked it up, because I would think like I'm just not in the space to be able to
Yeah.
handle that. Remember, like that's why I never read Bad Witch Burning. Like I tried,
Yeah.
and
We
we
both
we
DNF
we
that. Well, you
did.
never picked it up, and I had to
I never
DNF
picked it
it.
up because I wanted to, and I was just like, it just sounds way too heavy for
Yeah.
me
I mean,
right now.
it wasn't grief, but she was a bad mom.
Right, she's a bad mom. She's a bad mom, right.
Yeah.
And it was just so, and it's so many other like other things like added on to that, right? So, what was the one? So in Your Plantation Prom Is Not Okay. I'm waiting for it to come back to the thing. The mom has passed away, but the way
Hmm.
in which it's like dealing with her mother's grief and her dad, like, and having to deal with that. And when we going back and reading Tutu, and her
Hmm.
dealing with
Who
her mom
mercy.
being dead,
But
just
you knew
like
from the
like
beginning
it's
what Tutu was about because it was in the
right,
synopsis.
like I knew right that. But the other ones in which that I've been reading and having to look at and deal with that, it's been like, I don't know what's making y'all write about grief as much now, but I'm appreciating the fact that y'all are. I'm
Mm,
truly, especially because these, for the most part, they're all YA books. So I'm appreciating the fact that y'all are at least exploring grief
yeah.
for younger people to be able to have those conversations, right?
Yeah.
Um,
That's one thing
especially
I'll
for them.
never have bad about Legendborn. Like I do really like the way she deals with the way Bree deals with her mom and the way that it is a continuous part of the story, not just like something that happens and then 3 chapters later it doesn't come up again. Like that is the story, is her dealing with coping with her mom's death. So and then the author's note where she talks about like I forget what exactly it is, but it was like traumatic grief syndrome or something where like the grieving period is protracted and you're having like a lot of difficulty coping with it. And like the way that she talks about like that this is a real thing, you like a therapist would have to diagnose it. Like I really appreciate the way that Tracy Dillon deals with mother loss and Legendborn.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't finished, and even like even in the rereads, right? Because there's been two rereads this year. So there's been Clap When You Land, dealing with
Hmm.
grief. There's been
Hmm.
Bud Not Buddy, dealing with grief. So it's like
Yeah,
everything that I've picked up this year to read, right? Even the
that
read
was this
along
year. That's
with
crazy.
Vina, even with the read along with Vina, there's a death, and that's like a big part of the story. So it was just like,
Oh,
all right,
Jubilation.
God, I don't know. All right, whatever lesson I'm supposed to be getting, because obviously I'm supposed to be thinking about this a little bit more than I'm really wanting to allow myself to think and stew on it. And tomorrow would have been her 70th birthday on top of everything. So it's just like, okay, whatever I'm supposed to learn. But I'm
You gonna learn it.
appreciative of the like conversations, because even like yesterday, I went on campus. One of my friends, he's a Q, and they're trying to get back on campus, and so I'm taking pictures so that they, can show those to
Hmm.
the DR and whatnot. And so we were talking, we had seen this video, and it was a conversation about a woman. She was having complications, and the husband is like, the doctor told the husband, he was like, you have to choose either your wife or the baby, and he chose his wife, and the wife was mad, and it became like a
Yeah.
fracturing point in the relationship, because she was
Hmm.
like, no, I've lived, you should have chosen. But he was like, we have children already. Like I chose you. Like I would
Mhm.
be choosing to choose this, to give up this life I chose to have with you, to raise
Mhm.
these kids and a newborn by
On my
myself,
own.
on
And
my
also,
own.
like, these kids that we already have deserve a mother.
They deserve a mother, right? And so in the conversation we were talking about, and I told him, I was like, the other day I saw this video and it completely changed how I look at spouses. Like completely, like I already looked at them like a completely different hierarchy, but it was like your spouse is the only family you choose. It's the only family you choose. You don't choose your kids, your mama, your siblings, your aunt, your nobody. The only person you get to choose to be in your life is the person you marry. And it made me think about how in these books, so often, because you're a kid and you lose your parent, you look at it one way and you feel a way about your parents' grief, but you don't ever think about it as this person lost the person they chose to do life with for the
Right.
rest of their life. And it's just it was just a way in which, like, looking at grief that again I had never
Yeah.
thought about, I had never processed. And so it even made me look at the way in which I looked at the characters in the story completely different. Because like in
Yeah.
your plantation promise, okay, like the dad, he's like checked out on life, like he's still a
Mhm.
dad, right?
Mhm.
Even or another book, I'm freaking Becca's book, the Hexfear Chronicles. There's grief in that because the mom has been killed in that and the daughter is like seeking revenge
Oh,
on that.
Becca's book.
But in Becca's book, and so even in that, like the dad in that has checked out because he's lost his wife. Like they've lost these people that they have given their committed themselves to. And just the ways in which, as a kid you don't realize that, and you're so wrapped up in your own grief and everything. I don't know. I'm rambling. I'm not trying not to. I know we need to get into a sprint and whatnot. But I'm just appreciative to how much, even though I have been trying to like check out of my constant like grief reality, that
Mhm.
like life and God has been like, I mean, you can check into fiction if you want to, but you still gotta
Deal.
deal with what's going on right here. Like I'm gonna let you get a little bit of relief from it, but no, this is still a
Right.
reality. You
You're
still
still gonna
gotta
have to
get
deal with
through it.
that.
You still gonna have to
Yeah.
face it. Like it's not going anywhere. And if this makes
Yeah.
it easier for you to get through because you can
All
process
right.
it with this imaginary character, here you go, baby. I got you. You got it. I got it.
Yeah. What do you think about Venus' comment?
Yes, easy to write a fantasy where you can write a lot of chapters about grief and make people feel instant sympathy for the MC. I'm trying to think.
Let's start a sprint.
Yeah, because
Question
I'm
for the
not
comments,
right.
and we
Yeah,
will
sure.
come back in and we'll start the conversation right there. What do y'all think about fantasy that has grief in there, right? And it's useful, right? Teens grieve, it's useful for them to see a model for how that could be done in a healthy way. Um, how do you hold that against like authors using grief to create instant sympathy and emotional connectivity between readers and main characters? What do we think? What is this? Oh, okay, sorry. StreamYard has changed once again.
Do
Annoying.
I need to share the thing, or are you on the tablet
No,
still?
I think I can do it. I was just on the wrong. Doo-doo. Maybe. Hold on. Un momento. YouTube fireplace doggy. All right. And 3, 2, 1. Y'all turn them pages. Oh no, 3, 2, 1. We're coming to see you, Otis. That's how it goes.
My bad. I was getting my drink. Wait, hold on. Why can't I hear you? Are you muted?
I'm muted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was saying, no, it's okay. I was reorienting myself to the chat because I was studying, well, I was reading through James and I'm trying to like get my syllabus finalized to send to the minister in the next week or so. I haven't had my laptop for 2 weeks because it's been in the shop. So now I'm trying to like catch up with all these different things that I really kind of needed my laptop to do. So yeah, no, I'm like, all right, well, let me just make sure that all of this is what I want. And also, James is just a really good book. Hot fire for the present moment. So I'm
What
just
is
trying to, James
James is a good book.
in the
Oh, in the
Bible. Yeah,
Bible. Okay, I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I was like, wait,
Yeah,
James? There's a book named James? What are you talking about?
yeah, no,
Gotcha.
no, no. James
We're
in
on the
the
same page
Bible.
again. Got you. We're on the same page.
Yeah, it's just a really good book of like present day living and what real faith looks like, and also just like what real wisdom looks like, and very clear divides between like, he's just very blunt. Like, he's like, if you're friends with the world, you're not friends with God, point blank, period. Now make your decision, but you're not going to have both. So I just am just like in a cycle of rereading it so I can sort of get it into my mind in a really like known basis of knowing what chapter one's about, what chapter two, three, four, five, so that when we go into the quarter, I'm able to like direct the students. Um, oh, blasphemy. Um, not John Vassar. Not at all. No her smexy books. Absolutely not. James in the Bible, in the good book. Because I think Joan Vassar is the one that wrote Unfortunately Francine. Now that book, I was like, I don't understand. That book was absolutely bananas. I kept waiting for.
I don't know who. No, I don't know.
No, I think that Joan Vassar wrote. She did. Unfortunately, Francine. That book was absolutely crazy. Alexandria House suggested it and was like, "This is amazing." Da 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 da. But you know what? It's my fault because the cover was very clear with what the content was going to be. Well, not very clear. It was clear with what like some things were going to be. The actual plot, I was like, Stockholm? Are we sexualizing Stockholm? We're sexualizing Stockholm. Stockholm isn't sexy. I'm also just in a different spiritual place. I can't be reading all these books about these pornographic images. Can't do it. But anyway, just trying to get James into my mind so I'm able to like properly direct my students when different themes and the oath come up about like, what does James say about things like this? Da-da-da-da-da. So I'm on chapter 4. Yeah, I was reading chapter 4. So now I'm coming back into like YouTube. So that's why I paused when I came back on screen. So I was like, where am I? Okay. So thoughts on Venus comment.
Okay, so now that I have like
Have
eaten
eaten.
and can like process what it is, um, I think it goes back to a Riley conversation we had about how Save the Cat is killing novels. Because it goes back to like why why is it that like the lack of parents is the only thing that creates sympathy for y'all? Like, is it that y'all feel like people with both parents can't possibly be having a hard time, can't
Because I can
possibly
tell you,
been
listen,
having things to go through? And like, here's the truth. I'm be perfectly honest with you. The more I meet people from two parent homes, the more I'm kind of glad I just had grandma. I ain't gonna hold
I'm
you.
sick. I don't
Like,
know what you're talking about, Shay.
the more I
But
meet them, the more I be like, baby, let me, grandma, I'm sorry. I'm sorry every time I complain. I'm sorry every time I was in my room, like, dang, I wish I had a mama and a daddy. Like, cause grandma, you did the dang thing. There's no shade to nobody. I'm not talking about like Brit or nothing, but just like in general, the more that I have met, the more I be like, because what I've realized is when it's two people, they really be alley ooping stuff. So like somebody won't do something because they think the other person doing it, and both the parents is missing it. And when it's one of y'all, you be like, I gotta cover all the bases because I ain't got nobody to alley oop it with. So sometimes, um, but truthfully, like kids with two parents be going through it too. And I
Yeah.
don't know why y'all act like they don't. Like I don't get that. Like I don't and I think I don't know if it's because the people who are writing these books came from single parent homes, so they have
Mm,
romanticized two parent homes.
mm. Because there's all
So I
three
don't
in first fantasy. Like
because
there's
right. And
bereavement,
because the
there's
truth
two
is
parents, and they're all in this exact same situation.
right. Because the truth
Like,
of the matter for me is like I definitely, as a child,
mhm.
romanticized two parent homes because television romanticized
Yeah.
two parent homes. Books romanticized two parent homes.
Depends
Because
on the quality of those parents.
that was my like belief. But even in like shows, like there were, I can count on like one hand the number of black television shows where kids only had one parent when I was growing up. Almost
Yeah.
every single one came from a two parent home. Literally, the
Hmm.
only one I can think of is One on One.
Yeah.
Literally, the only
One
one.
on one. Yeah.
Moesha had a
Yeah.
two parent home, like,
Yeah.
and the Parkers, One on
Well,
One, and the Parkers.
well, half and half. Like she knew her dad,
But
but
she was
he wasn't in
grown.
the
But she was
home.
a grown. That's what I'm saying. She wasn't a kid. She was grown. Like I'm talking about, like as they were
Like
high school. Like she
depicting
was,
a single family
yeah,
home because she grew up with
right,
only her mom.
right. But she was an adult in the show. She wasn't a
Okay.
teenager. She wasn't. That's what I'm saying. Like as a kid, there was
Okay.
only one. There are only the Parkers when she's in high school, and I feel like she's in
Yeah.
college when the Parkers start. I don't even think she's in high school when the Parkers start. She's in college. So
Yeah.
technically, and
Yeah.
One on One, she's in high school, right, with her dad. But everything else, two parent home, parenthood, two parent home, like everything. The Hugleys, two parent home, like you see it. So
Yeah.
even knowing that black kids came from single parent homes on television, that's not what I saw. That's not what I
Hmm.
was given. And so I did have this like idea that like if you came from a two parent home, your life is easier. Now, in ways, it can be,
Yeah.
but in
Like
ways, it also
financially.
can be harder. In
Yeah.
ways, it can be hard. I mean, yeah, I know people who came from two parent homes that definitely live worse than I did. Like, I always lived in a house. I know people who came from two parent homes that never grew up in a house, always lived in an apartment, never had a backyard.
Mm,
Like, so
yeah.
again, like it depends on like
Yeah.
where you
That's,
are
there
and
can
how
be
good your
financial
parents,
incentives,
right,
but
right, like how good your parents are with money, right? Like, because again, I
yeah.
learned very quickly, like I thought that, like I was like, oh, I'm really good with money, but if I had two parents to teach me money, I'd be good. I dated two different men from two parent homes, horrible with money.
Yeah. It
College
really is.
educated parents, horrible with money. And then I realized it has nothing to do with having two parents. It has to do with how educated your parents are with money and how well they educate you with money. And my
With money,
grandmother
like
just,
specific
she just,
aspect with money.
right, with money, she just made an effort to do this because she knew she was bad at it, right? Like there's a difference.
Mhm.
And so I wonder if it's people who like romanticize them as a kid and just never grew up and out of that, right? Because I grew up
Mm,
and out of that, right? By 21, I knew coming from a two parent home didn't mean you had this grand, lavish life and didn't know struggle and blah, blah, blah. Like, I knew
mhm.
by then that was a fallacy that entertainment had put in my head. But it's like these writers don't seem to know that, or that like the only way to get you to care is that I have to remove all these quote unquote luxuries for you to like care about this character. And like again, to me, that's like, really though?
Yeah. Because in some ways it goes back to the thought, and I don't remember where this is coming from, but the thought that like in order to empathize with Black people, you have to be able, like in order to feel anything for Black people, you have to see them suffer and be able to
Right.
imagine yourself suffering like that also. And it's like, why don't you have enough integrity and human compassion to hear that someone else is suffering and care about that, even if you don't have to imagine yourself suffering the same? That someone else is suffering it should be enough, whether or not you can you imagine yourself in that position. Also, and also, why can't you want people to be happy before they are in distress? Like, why do you have to see them in distress to want happiness for them? Why can't seeing them happy be enough in the beginning without even the thought of catastrophe? And I think in some ways fantasy requires that in particular, like there is a generic requirement for catastrophe in fantasy that gets answered through catastrophic grief. Hence so many people dying, people starting off having lost somebody. Like I think that's part of why so many fantasies bring in death as though it's a generic requirement.
Well, so that brings me to two, like a thought that I had as a kid, but then in your plantation prom is okay. It's literally like the author writes it as a sentence, and she's like, because there's the main character who's lost her mom, and then there's this side character that she's becoming friends with who has a mom and she's a bad mom, and she says, and it's literally almost the exact sentence I said, I don't know which is worse, having a good mom and losing her, or never having a good mom to begin with.
I would say having a good mom and losing her.
Right. So, in the context of this conversation, why is it always that it starts off
Thank you.
bad and gets worse? Why is the conversation never that it starts off great and gets bad? Because to me, if we're trying to create sympathy, having your perfect family life and then losing it would be, that would create an immense amount of sympathy. That
Yeah.
would create an immense amount of like me emotionally feeling for you, because you start at like this different place and I
Yeah.
watch you
Because I
at
know
this,
what you
like, I
lost.
know what you lost. If you come in with this lot, like, I already know you at this deficit. I don't know you any other way. I don't know you happy go lucky. I don't know you at this peaceful content place. So I don't I don't, to me personally, I don't have anything to sympathize empathize with in this case,
Yeah.
because I don't know anything other than that.
Yeah. And then I think like also I can agree with that. Like seeing a better balance in fantasy. Wait, there was another comment. Okay, yeah, that one. Um, it's
I
okay,
agree with this.
Felicia. I've been told that I have 1,500. That is an exaggeration, but I do have 15, so it's fine.
I was like, she's definitely being hyperbolic because nobody said that.
No, Shingai said that to me. She was like,
Oh,
"You have
I say
1,500."
1,500. I was like, I sure didn't say that. Don't do.
No, I have three other critique partners, one of who gets on my case just as much as you do. So you're not the only one who bullies me.
So now she really is being hyperbolic because bully. Okay, go ahead.
Shay doesn't bully me. But anyway, yeah, everyone ain't writing fantasy where the characters actually are processing their grief. And it is a popular trope as a catalyst for kickoff events in the story in a lot of fantasies. I agree. So I think that's then when Vina was saying like she would like to see a better balance
Oh yeah,
between
for
that
sure.
specifically where the family is still intact. And I
Oh yeah,
totally
because
agree.
I'm not gonna. We talked about how much I hated how Wings of Ebony ended. But I was like, she's not
Yeah,
processing her mama's grief, and then we gonna kill off her. Oh well, I'm sorry, somebody ain't read it. I just thought about that. Also, it's been out for a few years, so again, I apologize, but we didn't talked about it multiple times, so
that's true. It's
it's a thing. So
2023. That's crazy. It's
yeah,
out for
so
3 years now.
so I apologize.
So
I
spoiler
apologize
alert if you want to
really
mute
for
yourself for 15 seconds
right,
and mute.
right. But at
Um,
that, I was livid. Like, why would you do this?
yeah, killing her like and then it's her fault.
It's her
Like
fault.
now we can say like of course it's not your fault. Sure. But his death was a direct consequence of her
Of
choices.
her choices, of her
So whether we want to say
actions,
it's her
right?
like fault, it was a consequence of her actions,
Right.
and that is
And she's a
fact.
child. So regardless of us knowing that it's not actually her fault, she's a child. So she's going to see it as her fault no matter what.
Right.
So again, it's her fault in the way that you wrote the story. And it's like, why would you do this?
Right. Put that on her head.
Why would you put this? And I remember when we were talking about it being like, these were the things that made like were my critiques with the story, because it was just like, we could have handled this with so much more care, especially with her having so much animosity towards her dad the whole time.
Yep. And then right when she starts to like him,
Right.
he dies.
Right.
Maya came in. Hi, Maya. Alicia is working on questions for an interview tonight. Or is this an author interview?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um,
Wait. Oh yeah,
what?
we not. Well, I guess I'm not reading that. There we go. There we go.
What?
I ain't gonna tell you what I saw, so you don't click on
Oh,
it
the
because I
Joan
probably.
Vassar thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, absolutely
Mm,
not. I
absolutely not.
unfortunately, Francine was the only book I read from her, and then I was like, I feel weird that I even read that all the way through. No, no more. That's a one done for me. Auto reject from here on. It's them trying to keep up with other people. Yeah, that's how publishing goes. Oh, so and so did it and it was really successful, so we're on trend with that now.
Right.
Or you could continue the art of creativity and
Right.
make
But
something.
again, that conversation we had about Save the Cat. And
Yep,
now that they published Save the Cat writes a YA novel, I'm just so scared.
they did. It's over and done with.
I'm scared.
It's over and done with. It's formula from here on out. I mean, we've
I'm
been on formula, but like,
frightened.
yo, why would you do that? I mean, I know why she did it. It's for money, but like, I'm curious though. I want to see what she say. I honestly think that Save the Cat writes a YA novel, unless she makes like some huge departures and critiques of formula, will be redundant to Save the Cat writes a novel. Because
I
what
feel
she
like
said
the
to her, like
only
everyone was already
I feel
reading
like
that.
the only thing could be like more YA specific, like updated to more newer YA novels.
Sure, but newer YA novels were written by people who read and love Save the Cat. So that's why I'm just like, everyone already read that book.
You
I
know
want to
who's
know what
not
the
gonna buy
questions.
it is me. But I'm pretty sure, it might be on Scribd, so you might get to see, go
That's
skim
true.
it
I
and
want to see.
see.
I want to see the table of contents.
That's what I'm saying. Let's see, skim and see. I don't
I wish the
know.
next book wouldn't have started with the time jump. Yeah, that was jarring.
Yeah. And it was ridiculous. It didn't even make sense. Like, we're not gonna talk about it because somebody
We're
didn't
not gonna
finish it,
talk
and that
about
somebody
it.
is me.
I do want to read House of Marion though. I hope there's an audiobook.
Mm,
She
well,
was so excited about it. I want to read it. She said it's the best thing she's ever written. And
I'm not gonna hold you.
here you come. And that's what I'm saying.
She didn't almost
That's
got
what I'm saying, Vina.
unfollowed.
There were lots of YA examples in Save the Cat.
She
It was
got
Harry
she
Potter, After Our Last Airbender, everything. Like
Yeah, and Harry Potter ain't really aging well, so maybe that's why she redid it so she can take out all them and
oh,
find other examples of books that you
it may
can
not be
use.
aging well, but that doesn't change its impact or like the
But
way the stories were written.
people. I'm just saying,
People fell away, and that's
people
whatever.
feel
But I'm just
away, and it's
like, you're
like,
gonna rewrite a whole
but
book for that?
if she I ain't saying. I mean, she a Caucasian, so it's not necessarily like get your money, sis. But also, like, if y'all gonna go pay for the same book twice,
Twice with a
go
different
ahead,
cover and a different title.
go ahead.
If those are the decisions you make with your stewardship, I
Right,
suppose
right. Cause come on,
it wouldn't be me.
it's a lot.
Let me see if it is it on Scribd. Save the Cat.
Yeah, I haven't.
When does this
I've
come out?
literally recently, like within the last month, I feel like.
I don't think it's on Scribd. Nope, it's not on Scribd. The Complete Cat's Meow. Everything you need to know. Surely not. I'm gonna look on Amazon and see if I can see the table of contents because I'm just like, what? What are these
Mhm.
chapters? What are you saying? Because I truly am like okay, Girl on a Train, like she Lord of the Rings, the Fire and Ice or whatever, that Winter is Coming show is based off of. So she did have some adult things in there. I'm just saying, like to Venus' point, there was a crap ton of YA also to where it doesn't necessarily track that you needed to make a YA specific one. I would be curious as to what exactly that's like. I'm curious more than anything. I don't intend to take in much of anything that she says. I think Save the Cat is very useful. I've read it myself. I've highlighted. We've talked about it. Like I do think it's useful. I do think it's also being used as a formula rather than a review of the genre or a review of the craft of writing. Like I think it's useful for those things, but I think it's unfortunate that it's being used in a formulaic way. Who's the author interview? Alicia. I had got Save the Cat, but I couldn't finish it. It was driving me and I couldn't keep my attention. I like Save the Cat. I do like it. I think it's I think it is pithy and has a lot of like practical points and good examples. I like that she outlines books and it's like, see, here's where I like it. It is useful to me. I don't see the need for a YA version of that. Um, and YA in general is just becoming a very concerning category to me. It's a lot of
Man,
stuff
listen,
happening in YA that I'm like, what's happening?
listen.
We need to get a handle on
I'm just
this.
really concerned by all these people writing the books for kids that don't seem to know no kids. Truthfully, is what's bothering the mess out of me. Is like I be feeling like y'all clearly writing for millennials and
And that's
not
the
the
thing where
second
it's just
generation
like,
nuts.
that's why
Like
new adult needs to be a category. Because if y'all
it
want
like
to do that,
only because of that. Like solely because of that. Like solely because y'all there's this age range of books and characters y'all want to see that y'all are putting on these kids that don't need to exist.
yeah, I don't at all. So I'm just like, I'm not saying the kids aren't reading YA and loving it. Like kids are loving Legendborn. Kids are loving these books that are coming out. So I'm not saying burn the books. I wouldn't say that. I'm just like, to the extent that there are things going on in YA that I don't think we need to be representing for that age of youth. I think like new adult, like kids go to college. You got all these kids in high
Why?
school. None of
Why
them go to
can't y'all
college.
keep that right? Don't nobody got dreams to go to college? Don't nobody want to go to law school? Don't nobody want to go to grad school? Like nothing?
Why?
Like
So why can't we have a
literally.
genre where that's where they are and
But
it's more
that's a
appropriate?
whole area of life. Like, make it
Yeah,
make sense.
and
It's
a
the
really
same with
informative
TV
one
shows. Everybody in high school, literally these same 4 years. Y'all don't
over and
like
over.
y'all love being 30 and 40-year-olds playing teenagers your whole lives. Like, make it make
And
sense.
that's what freaks me out. Is because I'm like, there's something voyeuristic and slick pedophilic about us having a category of fiction where, oh well, kids have sex. Why in a category that's being consumed by 25-year-olds are we doing that though? They need their own category where they're not watching 16 and 17-year-olds discover their body.
That's so weird. Like I like
That's why
literally
that's when like something is going
I will
on that
I that's
needs to
why I
be
don't watch
interrupted.
I really don't watch shows where kids are the main characters. I'm not gonna hold you. Like it's not I don't like it. I don't like it. Like truthfully, if it's not a cartoon,
Right. I'm like, if it's not anime,
yeah, I don't like it.
and
I'm not
even
trying
then,
to
depending on
watch
what them kids are doing, I'm
kids.
like,
I'm not. I'm not. It makes me feel weird because I'm not a child. I don't want to watch children. I learn themselves. It's not me. It's not me. I barely want to watch adults. Let me be honest. Like I'm barely. I don't, it's
yeah.
not a me thing. So it's just it's weird.
Which says something about how we understand maturity. Here's what I would love to see. Here's what I would buy Save the Cat Writes a YA novel if it did, although I have no expectation that it actually did this because it would require some psychology. What I would love to see beyond plot and pacing, right? Like what I would really, really buy and eat up is us talking about the maturity differences between a YA, an NA, and an adult. Because how you got people in the same exact situations with just more explicit sex. A 16-year-old and a 26-year-old? A 16-year-old and a 21-year-old. Are we saying there is zero difference in their level of maturity? There's no difference, none. Now, are there vast differences? In some ways, like they are new adults, they're doing some of the same. They're growing out of some bad habit. So I'm not saying something won't come up, but for there to be no difference but sex,
Right, because like the way that y'all truthfully write these teenagers, like they're fully equipped to live and take care of themselves 100%
right,
out of nowhere, makes no
right.
logical sense.
Which goes back to the lack of adulthood of
Right,
adults around to
right.
shepherd
Like
these
you,
children.
right. Like you started off with a traumatic death that came out of nowhere. So they were just in a place where someone else was taking care of them, and now that person is gone, and they have to go do whatever this big. But like, there's no training, there's no nothing. All of that happens, and like, I just, it's like, do
Yeah.
y'all know how brains work?
It's really concerning. It's
But it
really
does go
concerning.
back to like, what is your fantasy? Because y'all's fantasy truly must be that like y'all just wake up and have the knowledge, because apparently it's not living and getting the experience.
Which, like, who wouldn't like that? But more,
Right.
it's like there are people whose fantasy is children without adults, and that is frightening. So you want children to be out here unprotected. What are we like? What does that sound like?
Right.
We do not need to be stoking children's fantasy that they live in a world without adults. Children don't necessarily know how important adults are, and that's fine and fair. But writing all of these fantasies as if they don't matter is wild. Is especially because they're not middle graders. They're high schoolers who could actually put themselves in dangerous situations
And
without
put
adults.
themselves in dangerous situations. And again, like we've said, we've talked about this before, like we cannot act like art doesn't influence life. Like we can't act like a bunch of shows where we are showing teenagers putting themselves in adult situations, a bunch of books where teenagers are putting themselves in adult situations don't encourage teenagers to put themselves in adult situations, because again, teenagers don't have the ability to realize that these are fictional characters. These are fictional situations. Every single instance of these, right? We know this to be true. Do you know how many court cases we didn't had in which teenagers went out and recreated video game scenes as
Right.
real life?
To their death.
Because, right, to their detriment, to go to jail or for someone else's death. Like, all these
Yeah.
things we know are things that teenagers have done.
Yeah. And it's hard because, like, fantasy is fantasy. Fantasy should be because people are allowed to play. That's fine. So to be honest and transparent, if it wasn't every or most a gross majority of fantasies doing this, I wouldn't be saying nothing to begin with.
This
It's
wouldn't be an
fine for
issue,
there to
but
be a
it's
fantasy where there's no parents and like, oh,
mhm,
what would happen if all the parents disappeared? That's an interesting premise. Let's explore that.
right,
Let's not act like there wouldn't be catastrophe, but let's explore that.
right,
But for every fantasy to just be writing parents out, or most, not every, for so many YAs to be writing parents out with no explanation and no apparent consequence. What I did like about Bad Witch Burning is she had a bad mom, and the fact that her mom was negligent has severe consequences.
severe
And she would
consequences.
often go to her best friend's house, whose parents were there, to get what she needs. Because that's what happens when you don't have parents that are functioning. There is suffering.
Right.
It's not just, oh, I'm on a grand adventure now, even if it is a fantasy, which Bad Witch Burning is. So
Right.
it's not troubling to me that it happens, because sure, it's fantasy for kids. That is a common fantasy for kids. Oh my gosh, I was so annoying. I wish I didn't have any parents. Sure, that's a normal thing for kids to say. But for every or most of the fantasies to be indulging that with no exploration of the detriment and the consequences that would cause, that's when I'm just like, we need to interrupt that a lot more than we currently are, and just trouble what it means to have such a wide swath of a genre and of a category remove parents. And again, maybe it's a fantasy thing and not as much contemporary. So I'll pass it back to Shay. But like, and I get why in fantasy you would want the parents to be gone, because how are the kids going to go on an adventure if they're grounded or if their parents say that they can't go? Like, I get the logistical things, but that's really why we're doing all of this, because the parents might say no, that they can't go. That's why we take them out
Right, like kids don't disobey their parents. Okay,
all the
right,
time.
like okay, the parents say no, they go instead. Then there be repercussions to that actions, right? Like you disobeyed, you got in trouble because now you got to fight a dragon. Okay, it makes it like
Parenting,
right, like it just I just don't.
which Ella McKinney does do in the Nightmare Verse trilogy.
Mhm.
The logic of it sometimes sent me for a loop, but she did have a mom who was like, get your butt in this house at this time, and if you don't, it's gonna be some consequences and repercussions. Like, we
Right.
saw that. So that's why I'm just like, She was told to do
So,
something, she disobeyed, consequences ensued. Why, like, and that was a portal fantasy. She was it like she went to a different world. It can be
mhm.
done.
So for me,
Hey,
well,
Queen.
in all three of Elizabeth Acevedo's, the parents are there, the guardians are there, they're mentioned, they have conversations, they're influenced. So whether they are good or bad, or whether the way they move is understood by the child or not, like they're in there. There's no not. First of all, Elizabeth ain't writing something that don't got family, so let's just start there. So she's not denying family. The other contemporary things that I've read are more speculative contemporary. So again, like Tutu, speculative contemporary. Again,
Right.
the dad is there, or
And
the
Tutu,
aunt is
the
there.
aunt.
The aunt is there. The
Right.
aunt is there. Right. She's busy as all get out, and she's working. But there's conversations. There are
Right.
come to Jesus meetings.
And
There's
there are
hey, we're
reasons for
both
that.
dealing with great, and there's reasons for that.
She's a
Right.
single mom all of a sudden, like, yeah, I gotta
Out of
work.
nowhere, and she's a college student, like out of nowhere, like it's a lot going on,
Yeah.
right? It's a lot. And your plantation prom is not okay. In this situation, he's trying to parent and deal with running a enslaved humans museum that they're trying not to go bankrupt under, and dealing with the fact that they might have killed his wife being negligent. So like, yeah,
Woo.
there's a lot going right. There's a lot going on in this situation, but this man is there. Is he having his own issues? Sure, but he is there.
But
He's
that's
an
also true to
active part,
parenting. Parents are
right?
humans.
Humans, right? He's an active part of the story. What's the other one? The one that me and Vina read earlier this year, like the mom and the grandma,
Oh,
active
Daughters
part
of
of the
Jubilation.
story. Daughters of Jubilation, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
active part of the story. Family is an active part of the story. Truthfully, there
Mm,
is not going to be a book that I tell you I like that family is not going to be a part of the story. Full stop.
yeah.
Because
It's
like,
not the kind of fantasy that really that I want to write. And I trust that
it's
my critique partners would definitely be like, these kids are really interesting. Where are their parents? Because the truth is, we read so much of it, it's possible for us to reproduce things that we critique.
first, so much
It
so, right?
absolutely is. But that's what critique partners are for, to hold you accountable to the standards that you set and to help you achieve them. Because writing can be distracting in certain ways. Like you get into one scene, there's a back and forth between two teenagers, they go home, you go to the next day, and it's easy to gloss over the fact that, like, did she see her parents that night? Did they have dinner? Like, did she eat? Like, what, like, there, it's easy to do that, but just I think we're getting too deep into, like, I think we're getting too comfortable with that in fantasy anyway. So, but I know that, like, contemporary, because it is contemporary and is more beholden to realism, often has like just separate struggles than fantasy. And sometimes it's like, yeah, we don't have the issue of disappearing parents. The parents are there.
Right.
You know, once again, a unique struggle for the speculative genres.
Yeah. And I think it's also when, again, my
Explain
favorite
this.
things to talk about, when writing is a ministry, when
Yeah.
it is something that you truly want to use to make an impact. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter how much time it takes. It doesn't matter how much work it takes when you have a specific reason for why you want things to happen in your story, you gonna make that happen. And
Yeah.
for us, as the way that we move, there are reasons why we want you to see family. And it's because we see so lack of family, a lack of good family, lack of ways in showing how family can exist in multiple ways in the Black community, that for us it's like, no, this is part of our mission, is to make sure that you see this,
Yeah.
to make sure that we're putting it out there, right? Because
Yeah.
again, for us specifically, we're not the type of people to complain about stuff that we're not willing to fix, we're not willing to put out there. Because we
Right.
could talk about it and complain about it all day, but if we're a writer and we're not fixing the things that we're complaining about, then what are we doing?
That's
Truly.
hypocrisy.
Right. Truly. We're going to complain about what we don't like, and then we have the opportunity to do better and we don't? Come on now. Didn't
Alicia,
Ancestor Maya tell us?
hmm?
I said, didn't Ancestor Maya tell us when you know better, you do better?
Hello. Alicia makes a good point about, like, you know, the difference between like the choice to age up. What I think is interesting, not interesting, is just true that, like, age does not always dictate category. Like, we've read adult books where the child is a prominent character. Like, A Child Called It.
Oh yeah,
That is
A
an
Child Called
adult
It.
book.
That is an adult book. I was a child when I read it and should not have. Should not have.
Exactly. I was in
No
5th
child.
grade.
No, literally elementary school. No child should ever read that book.
And then they come up with a second one.
There's 3.
Are there?
There's 3. There's A Child Called It, A Kid Named Something, and A Man Named Dave.
Oh, is Dave okay?
I never read the other ones. I ain't gonna hold you.
The Child Called It was traumatizing.
A Child Called It scarred the mess out of me.
I was
I ain't gonna hold you. When I became an adult, I told my grandma, I was like, I want you to know that I'm old enough to know that was a form of abuse and making me read that book. Because what you did is you made me read that book to show me what extreme abuse was, to make me believe that what you did wasn't abuse, and that's why you had me read that book. I'm old enough to understand that now. That doesn't negate that what you did was still abuse. It just wasn't as extreme as that woman's. I want you to know that I know that. I want you to know that.
And I want you to stick with that.
Right, because originally when I read it, I was like, I ain't got nothing to complain about. Literally, and that's what you wanted. That's what you wanted. And now that I'm an adult, I realize, no, we both had sucky lives. His is just quite a bit more sucky than mine.
Like, right. His was just dangerously sucky.
Dangerously sucky. Like, literally.
Yeah. So, I mean, depending. And one of my critique partners is working on a fantasy where, yeah, they're teenagers, but still the things that she's depicting, I'm just like, I don't know. I would feel perfectly comfortable.
That Kiese Layman book, they're in middle school. Never once did I think that book was for kids.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just like, I don't know.
It's hilarious. I love it. It's funny, but not once was I like, I'm going to get this to my nephew. Like, no, this is for grown people.
So that's something to consider, Alicia. Like, maybe you don't have to age them up. You can just, if you're querying, if you're doing trad pub, you can just be very clear that it's for trad pub. And the writing style also, like, yes, A Child Called It, he was a kid, but the narrative voice was very mature. And the things that were depicted were mature. Like, yes, his voice was that of a child, but the story and the way it was written wasn't kid friendly. I got through it. So obviously, like, the words weren't too big, but there is something to be said for, like, the way you narrate a story, and the situations that are depicted in the story and the explicitness of certain situations that kicks it up to adult versus being something that's written.
Because I don't remember having to have my dictionary out because there was words I couldn't understand or nothing. But
it was in my 5th grade class library. So I think, like, that also goes to, often age is the primary indicator that people use to decide what the category should be. But had my teacher actually read that book and thought about it, hopefully she would have been like, yeah, not for my kids.
Yeah, because there's no way I would let a child read that book. Like, no, like, honestly, I could only see it having anyone read that book if they are studying abuse. Like, I really just can't see me ever just read this book. Like, why?
That book is going to be either triggering or terrifying. So for what?
Both, right. So why would I ever? It's just
that book just rotates back into my mind sometimes.
Yours too? I guarantee you, I think about that book like once a year. Like, no lie. I think about that book randomly like once a year, no lie. Because it literally, like, that book did a number on my life. I'm not even going to.
It really did.
Because and especially if you read it in elementary school, because it is.
Which apparently so many of us did.
Right.
That book was miscategorized.
For real. But it's because it's about a child that people just was like, okay, children can read it. And it makes no sense.
Oh, the What Fireflies Knows?
Okay. Yeah, like I do think, and the other part for me, that I was thinking about, Alicia, so I don't know if this is what you were meaning, is that I think it would be interesting to write um a child with a disability as a child right now.
Hmm.
I said I think it would be interesting, like as us, as like older millennials, right?
Hmm.
Like writing about a child with a disability in today's time. Like
That's hard.
how right, because how kids in today's time treat people with disabilities is way different than
Different.
how kids when we were kids like
Yeah.
treated kids with
Yeah.
disabilities. So like again, I think it would be interesting, and that's why I was like I wasn't sure if that's what you were meaning as well, Alicia. Is just like if you're doing a child, it changes, right? Because if you
Yeah.
were to write a 30-year-old with a disability, it's way different than writing a child now, because you don't have to take into consideration kids now. You can just take in adults, and you know adults very well. So you know what I mean? Like, so I wasn't sure if that's what you're meaning, but that's another thing that is. You read it for school? No, we didn't read it for school. It's just to read it. Well, my grandma made me read it, so, but it wasn't for school. It was just there.
Yeah. So will and Bluest Eye also not appropriate for
Yeah.
children.
No,
Like
no, I
that.
can't imagine why someone
It's
would.
pretty heavy. I wouldn't give that to a child, and I wouldn't even give it to an immature high schooler.
Why was I reading? I know why the cage bird sings in
Another one.
elementary
I'm just
school.
like, it depends on your level of
No,
maturity. Those books have
no,
very difficult topics in them.
right. And I think that again, here's another thing that we should talk about, right? Because I think that specifically in our age range of growing up, there was this big push of like gifted and talented. So there's this your reading level is high, so we want you to read these books because it's your reading level, and it's not just reading level that attributes these books. It's not just the reading level, right? It's the content that's in these books. I know why the Cage Bird Sings was not just like a up there chapter book. Like it's not just what it was. So again, it wasn't something that should be read just
Right.
because
Right.
it's a
It was a
thick book.
biography with like sexually
I,
explicit content and trauma,
right,
criminal activity.
literally,
Like it
and it wasn't
wasn't
fiction. It
right.
was
And like that was a
not fiction. This
biography,
is
also an
somebody's real
autobiography,
life.
which makes it even harder. So it's just hard. So I don't know, Birdie. Like that's a complex. That's definitely a complex thing. And I was just talking to my critique partner about it the other day. That's something that I think authors work out between themselves and their agents and publishers. Whether or not that's the best place to work it out, that is where it gets worked out with the publisher saying either age it up or age it down, or the agent making that decision before they go on sub or whatever. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's hard.
Yeah. I'm hoping so there's not a lot of people that I've read. I see Venus about Elizabeth Acevedo is one of the few I've read whose adult book reads completely different from her YA. I haven't read a lot of people that have YA and adult books. And I think it's probably because if I didn't like their YA, I wasn't even willing to give their adult a try if they did have an adult. Cause I wasn't really willing to give Bethany her young adult a try, and then I gave that adult book a try, and that was a teenage main character, and I was like, "Ooh, baby, child, what is you doing? What is you doing? What is you doing? We aren't touching your comments. What'd you say? What book? I don't know which question you talking about."
Who, me?
No, Larry said we wasn't touching her comment. Oh, well, because we you already know what we think and feel about this Stockholm syndrome. Like we all know that we don't agree with that, so I didn't think that one needed to be touched on.
You said Birdie said that?
No, literary lady said that.
Oh, right. Well, you already acknowledged in your comment that you knew that we didn't want to talk about John Vassar. So I was like, well, it feels like nothing more needs to be said.
Yeah, I read. I know why the Cage Bird sings at 14 didn't traumatize me, but definitely was a book discussed with my parents. Had to read it for school. Yeah, see, and I read it before 14, so yeah.
It's hard out
And
here.
I had already been, I'd already been essayed in real life at that point. So again, it was just like
Right.
a this doesn't ever this is not a this is not a
Again,
book
it
that I
goes
should have
back
been
to it's
reading,
either
right?
triggering or terrifying.
Right, exactly. Like it's just not that. Also remind me of a discussion the other month on Twitter where educators are pointing out that a lot of the current MG has a higher lexile level than its intended audience. Right, because again, y'all don't like I firmly believe that people are writing things and they have no real gauge on the category for which they're writing. Like I think that y'all think that if you age down the character, that automatically it fits this group that it's supposed to be reading for, and it's not. I'm conflicted with this. I understand to an extent why these sexual memoirs are labeled on Wire MG. I don't know what a sexual memoir is, and I didn't know that there were YA or middle grade sexual memoirs. So I would find that weird. I'm not even gonna hold you. I would
Yeah.
find that weird as all get out that there would be a sexual memoir that's YA or MG. Because I would think that in order for it to be a memoir, you'd have to be an adult because you would be reflecting on it. And so, even in that, I don't understand why that would be geared towards children. Because as an adult, you would be reflecting on something that happened as a child, meaning that you are using your life experience and your ability to have lived as an adult to reflect on something that you couldn't have possibly understood as a child. So, why would you expect that children will be able to understand? Again,
Yeah.
logically, it doesn't make sense to me. So, I wouldn't be conflicted as much as I'd be like, this doesn't make sense for me. But I don't know if I'm just misunderstanding. But the words that you're using, again, sexual memoir, just sounds insane to me.
I've never heard of
I've
that
never heard of it.
genre, or maybe it's a subgenre of
Memoirs, but
memoir. And I guess
is
if
that
I'm
what
just
like is
using
that like what
context,
Superhead wrote?
what?
You don't remember Superhead? Yeah, man.
I don't think All Boys Are Blue is a middle grade. Is it? Let me first say this. I am judging a book by its cover. I looked at the cover of it and it didn't give middle grade. I haven't read it. I haven't read it. And my phone is downstairs, so I hope that she's not going to call me. I haven't read it, and none of the conversations I've heard about it have sounded middle grade.
My bad. I went to go. I went to go look it up. I was like, I ain't heard of this book, and I accidentally closed the tab. I was like, wait.
It's okay. I've heard of it. I haven't read it, but none of the conversations I've heard about it have sounded middle grade.
All Boys Are Blue is YA. Okay, that's the one with the like dude on the cover, but he got like flowers.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was a YA book too.
I definitely didn't get middle grade.
And from what I thought, what I've seen around it, because I haven't read it. Oh. I'm just oh, sorry, y'all. I'm just knocking my computer down and stuff. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry. I thought it was like upper YA, anyways. Like almost
Yeah, I'm
adult
like, the
from the
conversations I hear about
conversations I
that book
saw.
are very mature.
Right.
Okay, so I guess we're getting more definition.
Having sexual themes in their memoirs about their essay or sex experience marketed towards kids.
I don't like that. I'm not gonna hold
Yeah,
you.
I don't like that. That doesn't sound wise to me. I wouldn't allow my kids to read it. I wouldn't promote it. I wouldn't suggest it. Those would not be things that I would be okay with. That's my personal thing. You know,
Yeah.
more power to you if you do, but no.
And I also don't feel any conflicts about that at all. I've also
I'm
been
not
very clear
conflicted
that
at
I'm a
all.
Christian. So, of course, if I had kids, they're not going to be reading everything under the sun. Discretion is the job of
Right.
parental figures. So,
Right.
no. Um, that I'm also just like, that's a little bit too much when kids don't even know what sexuality is, don't even know what gender is. Talking about sexual assault for an adult and marketing it towards children, I just don't. have a full conception in my mind of what that would entail.
Yeah, to me, I
I don't
just
like, I just don't understand what that would look like.
yeah. I definitely understand having like the I can see having conversations in books about sexual assault geared towards minors, right? Like I see that in a nonfiction way. It's something about sexual memoirs being marketed towards kids that just
That's where I'm just like,
sounds so weird to me. This doesn't sound like education. This sounds like capitalism. Like it's like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't sound like the purpose of the book is to educate and to inform. And that's what feels weird to me.
I don't know. I'll also say I've never read it. Clearly, we're just finding out about this
Yeah,
from you,
no.
literary lady. So that's why I'm just like, on the spot, it's a no for me.
And so All the Boys Are Blue is a memoir or Aren't Blue. It's not a fiction book, is what I'm guessing, I guess.
I did think that it was more had a nonfiction bent, but again, I haven't read it, so I don't know.
Yeah,
But
so
my
I guess that's
laptop,
the other part is about to die.
yes, and
Okay.
my landlady is downstairs on the phone, so that's why I came up here, and my laptop is far, far away in another land now.
Okay.
Um, it's also 1 o'clock. We got on a
Oh
little
yeah.
late, and then we've only done one sprint. So unless
That's
we're going
fine.
to do another sprint, we should just head out. How are people feeling about wanting another sprint? Thumbs up if you want another sprint. Okay sign if you're like, no, this has been sufficient. I'm good to go about the
Um
rest of my day. Shay,
okay,
how are
well
you feeling?
I was gonna say the last thing I was gonna say is I will say that I guess in my mind I have never thought of memoirs not being for adults. So I guess
Same.
that's the other part of that. So I'm fine with whatever. I'm fine with whatever. I actually ended up not starting the dark place because I was eating food and whatnot. So I was reading more of the Charlie Freeman book, which literary lady is very interesting. I'm enjoying the like flip back between the times, like from the early 1920s to like the 1990s. And I will say it is making me think so much more about like I think that I got in my head because if y'all ever go back to like when I first started, I was like, I'll never write historical. I just can't see me because in my head historical was slaves. Like historical was
Yeah.
slaves. And the more that I am reading things set in the like early 1900s, the more I am just becoming more fascinated with the forms of resistance our people took. Like I am just more just the ways in which our ancestors moved through this country. The more that you research, the more that you learn, the harder it is not to respect the mess out of them and the things that they went through. And the more that I read, the more I'm just like, maybe I might end up being a black historical writer because the truth of the matter is I want to play around with these black social clubs something serious. Like, man, I want some crime fighting, vampire killing black social clubs. That ain't even what's going on in the story, but that's what she got my brain thinking about because they in this social club in this thing. So, anyways, that yeah. But
It looks like people are good on sprints. Felicia said she's good to go. Vina said this has been a good combo, which is giving like I'm satisfied. Um,
mm,
yeah. All right, so we'll wrap up here, and then you and I can private sprint Shay because we do have some books we need to get through.
right. Yeah, no, we gotta do we
We got
got
some
stuff to
assignments to
do
complete.
today.
So, y'all, thank y'all for participating in the convo, for bringing your diversity of thoughts and experiences. We have some librarians here, we have bookstore workers here. Like, it's just always good, and teachers and secretaries. Like, it's just good to get people from multiple occupations and experiences to add to the conversation in an insightful and educational and respectful way. So, I always love when we can
I ain't gonna hold
disagree
you, but right, like
respectfully.
if ever I do a video again, because I'll be working on it, it's probably gonna be a live. Because I ain't gonna hold you. This editing.
It's for the BIRDS. Okay.
I got you. I got you. I got you. I got
Okay.
you.
All right, Shay, outro.
My name is Cache. I be doing stuff. You'll
Mhm.
see it more on IG anywhere else. So go follow me. Oh, and I crossed 1,000 followers on Instagram finally. Oh my gosh, it
That's
took me, and I
amazing.
did. So thank all y'all who are following me. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are so awesome.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah.
And her Instagram and everything is in the description box. So if you don't know, now you know. We totally didn't do intros. We just came in talking. Wow.
We did, because we
And
ended
that
our
set the tone for this
conversation, and you were
entire
like,
stream.
"Just go live."
That set the tone for this entire stream. Came in talking, was like, well, we're gonna do one good 30 minutes, and after that, we'll come back. So I'm Britt. This is my channel, brittwriterly. It's a book and author tube where I talk about the intersections of literature and culture. It used to be through lots of videos, is now mostly through sprints and streams like these. So thanks for coming and participating. We did used to sprint like 3 times a stream. That was a thing that used to happen. It might come back again, but y'all be here for the conversation too, so I'm not gonna make too many
Yeah,
excuses about it.
we'll
Um,
tell y'all in September. See y'all.
maybe September's a new time.
It's a new
Maybe.
time. We'll bring it. You know.
Who knows what could happen? So yeah, love that. And then I do honest teas. Those are more becoming like a biannual thing. Maybe in 2024 it'll change. We honestly don't know. I'm not gonna make no promises about that either. Look out for the Riley conversation on my channel this month, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, Shay hasn't said it's not, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna say that it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And time and date TBD. So watch the spot on my community tab, on my Instagram, which is also listed in the description box. I keep forgetting to put in my new Instagram, which is 2BLK Anime Girls. If you have not followed that, then you definitely should. There's lots of jokes on there, and I don't want you to miss the launch of my new podcast, Legends of Two Black Girls, that I do with one of my other critique partners. So y'all have not met Shannon, but the way that Shay and I can go back and forth on and on for hours about genre and culture and da 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 is the way that Shannon and I can go on for hours and hours about anime.
Cause y'all know
So
that's not
that's
me. I don't know nothing about no anime. Y'all see how I can only talk about one, and she be so mad because it's the only one I can talk about.
haven't even finished it. Just ridiculous.
I did finish it, but you act
Which
like it
one?
don't count. Death Note.
Oh yes, 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 yes.
See, you act like it don't count.
I always forget that you finished it. Um, so if you haven't followed me on Two Black Anime Girls, definitely go over and do that. It's either Two Black Anime Girls or Two Anime Black Girls. I don't have my phone to like
I think
check
it's
my
two black anime girls.
great. So yeah, go follow me over there, and y'all have an amazing weekend. Drink plenty of mine. Drink plenty of water. Mind plenty of your business. Goodbye.
Bye.